Matt, it's great to have you. What can they say this afternoon to turn things around?
I don't know that there's much they can say this afternoon. So I think they did the right thing in setting a low bar. But I think that the questions investors have around when are they going to catch up technology-wise, what are gross margins going to look like when all this spending comes on, those aren't really going to be answered at earnings tonight.
So they've done a number of things. I mean, they've looked into, it sounds like, a number of different deals. I think even today or recently this week, there was one that didn't come together. They've tried, of course, to do their own manufacturing. That's a big effort now. They're maybe looking at trying to help the auto industry in particular, kind of dragging them into some of the new technology to help ease their chip shortages in the future. Are all, which of these, from deal making to kind of targeted industries, do you think could help give them a leg up here?
I think it's really nuts and bolts. So I think it comes back down to getting manufacturing right. So their struggles with manufacturing made it hard for them to hit the curve at the right time with new technologies. And so that's why they're losing share to AMD. That's why, in part, they struggled to get into the AI market early. And so I think they're doing the right thing. They're investing more in their facilities. They're trying to push forward faster with new chip technologies. But I think it's really the nuts and bolts stuff, the blocking and tackling that they need to get right. What they've tried in the past is to camouflage that through acquisitions, entering into new spaces. I think you certainly can help yourself there. But at the end of the day, if they're struggling on the manufacturing side, I think that's going to be a pervasive problem across their business units.
How much stock, pardon the pun, do you put in Pat Gelsinger, who's going to be on the network in the next 24 hours, I believe? And I ask you the question because when we're talking about this, I think back to, say, GE, for example, had all sorts of problems, obviously a different business. But they get the right person, theoretically, in the chair, in the corner office, and finally the story seems to be better. So if your time horizon is long enough, can't this story have a similar outcome because of the person that they put in the seat?
I think that's certainly the case. If you look at what they were doing under the previous administration, they were cutting expenses when they struggled, and in turn that was leading to better earnings, better cash flow for investors. But in doing that, you necessarily disadvantage yourself from a technology perspective, right? It's hard when you're struggling and then you cut back your investments to catch up. Now they've got someone in the seat who really believes in the importance of investing, believes in the importance of manufacturing, and he's done the right things in terms of reinvesting in the business to put them in a position to execute. Having said that, they're competing against companies that have consistently executed, whether it's NVIDIA, whether it's TSMC, whether it's AMD, at least under Lisa Su. And so they're trying to hit a moving target. And so, yes, if you have a long enough time horizon in 2025, 2026, when Intel's targeted being ahead in manufacturing, if they execute, certainly things could work out. My concern is simply what happens in 2022, 2023, and there's not a certainty that they get to that point.
It's a matter of getting investors excited about the story again. What they keep hearing about is how great Lisa Su is doing, as you mentioned, how great Jensen Huang is doing, and how great NVIDIA is doing, and all of these stories that seemingly have a better narrative around them. But as you said, okay, over 1 year, your target and your outlook, people are going to be disappointed. Over 5 years, why not take a bet on what you could say is a cheap stock?
I think it simply comes down to uncertainty. So if you wait a year, are you going to you'll have more insight and you'll have avoided the pain of what happens in 2022. If they're targeting being ahead in 2024, you'll have a far better idea when we get close to that time, so 12 months from now, 18 months from now, whether they are executing to plan, whether they are starting to come out with technologies that are competitive. But I just don't see why one would be involved now when all you can see is the investment. We're still looking at the projects that were started by the last team. And so you're not really seeing what Pat brings to the table until 24 or 36 months from now.